Hello, welcome to another episode of Games Analysis and Producer Perspectives. My name, of course, is Ray Hazlett. We got a big topic today, and someone just now started their leaf blower right as I started recording. We're going to push through that. Hopefully you don't hear it. Am I going to fix it in post? You're going to find out later. All right. So there's some big moves happening in the game industry, and I wanted to give some perspectives about it. And very, very, very brief analysis all the way at the end. First things first, let's not bury the lead. Amazon laid off 14,000 employees, and they have a plan to lay off, I do believe it is another 18,000 more in the coming months. What are they doing? Some people were saying, well, were these a bunch of factory workers? Because Amazon was saying they wanted to pivot to AI or machine AI for a lot of their jobs. And nope, these were mostly white-collar office jobs in their corporate offices. Up to including Amazon Game Studios, and that's what we're talking about today. They do want to place a lot of their middle management roles with AI, and there's a lot of companies that have tried that before. I do believe somewhat recently in the last 2 years, IBM tried that, and then they ended up hiring almost everybody back because you can't AI your way into an effective business. I know a lot of companies are trying, and in my personal opinion, it feels like they're failing, but we will continue to see as it goes on. So yeah, Amazon Game Studios, they basically laid off almost all of their employees. Almost. There's like skeleton crews of people working for Amazon Game Studios. As a matter of fact, I had a lot of friends, colleagues that worked at Amazon Game Studios more than I thought. And pretty much all of them, except two people that I personally know, two colleagues that I've either worked with, two people I have worked with in the past, are still working at Amazon Game Studios. Everybody else. It was a very awful day to have a LinkedIn account, I guess. If you're working in the gaming sector, everybody else got laid off. 14,000 people, that is a lot of human beings. I think that I read an article that said that represented 4% of their entire workforce. Amazon's not a small corporation. That is a lot of humans. Let's talk about the biggest game that Amazon Game Studios, their biggest and arguably their most successful video game, New Worlds. That game was announced that it has one more year of life left into it, and then they're going to shut off the servers. So it's going to be operational through the rest of 2025. As of the recording of this podcast, it's November of 2025, all the way through 2026, and then it's done. It's getting shut off, and that's the end of that. Right now there's a skeleton crew left working on New Worlds. They're not going to add any more content to it. I feel if you're the type of person that goes into New Worlds, you're still playing it, and then you buy some in-game merch, you deserve everything that you get that happens to you. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you supporting a multi-billion-dollar corporation by buying in-game stuff when you know the server's going to turn off? What is wrong with you? I know these type of people exist, and I don't know how many of them listen to this podcast, but don't do that. Now, New Worlds wasn't dying. It just wasn't a dying game. I checked in on it. It still had about 30 to 40,000 people that logged into the game on a somewhat regular basis. That's not nothing. That's a pretty healthy amount of people that still play your MMO RPG. I played a little bit of New Worlds. I technically was a developer on it for about 2-3 weeks, and then I got moved to a different project. I didn't like New Worlds. I didn't like what I played. I thought it was interesting, and I thought I could see how people can like this, but I didn't like it. I was also playing Final Fantasy XIV at the time, and I thought, hey, this ain't Final Fantasy XIV. And it was never gonna be. It's meant to be kind of a sandbox-ish type of MMORPG. It's, I guess, fine for what it was, and it found some sort of small audience with it, and it was fine. I'm just shocked that after a couple of years of existing, they're like, yeah, we're done with it. We know that there's an audience for it, but we started off, their largest concurrent count was almost 1 million players, and going from 1 million to 30 to 40,000 players, I guess Amazon thought it hit its peak, It had a meteoric rise and it also had a meteoric fall. Interesting that they're just like not even going to bother with it. We'll get to why they're not going to bother with it, but I want to share, and I'll, the video version of this podcast, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and put up there the actual images of this. The former vice president of Amazon Games shared a perspective with the world. It was kind of a tell-all. Bet you didn't know this. Did you know Amazon has spent the last 15 years trying to compete with Steam? Yeah, Valve's Steam. That, when I was reading this, I was like, no, what? That's crazy. No, I didn't know that. The first time I read that, I thought, oh, that's kind of funny. And then I really thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh. It was a break in my brain. Because if you have one of the largest companies on Earth, and you find out, by the way, we're trying to compete with Steam, one of the largest video game distribution networks on Earth, and nobody knew that, that speaks to a level of failure I can't adequately put into words. It's like making a new car, and then someone, we'll say Ford, we'll say Ford made a new car, and then there was a tell-all of the vice president of New Motors or whatever. I'm just making up a title here. Says, hey, yeah, did you know that we were trying to compete with Tesla? And you think you were? With what car? And that's where the questions start getting asked, and you're like, oh no, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that you were trying to compete with. Not to say that anyone shouldn't try to compete with Tesla. I hate Tesla. Don't buy Tesla. Anyways, they did a couple of different things, such as some of the more obvious ones is they bought Twitch. They bought Twitch because they thought that most people that watch Twitch streams are video gamers, and we can get people into the video game ecosystem via Twitch. Didn't work. They bought Reflexive Entertainment so that they can have a online game store for people to go to the Amazon game store to buy their video games. I didn't know this thing existed. It did, and it didn't do anything. It went nowhere. Even their cross promotion of it via Twitch didn't help. And then, of course, Amazon started the Amazon game streaming service, Luna. Every time I get reminded of Luna, I have this immediate reaction of oh yeah, that exists. I didn't know that existed. Yeah, obviously that didn't do anything. It didn't gain Steam, and it didn't compete with Steam. You know who else had a giant gaming streaming service that tried to compete with Steam and then it went nowhere? Google Stadia. Yeah, Google, let me remind everybody, Google in 2018, tried to buy their way into the game industry with game streaming services, and then it crashed, burned, and died 3 years later. It kind of was dead on arrival, but it died a pauper's death. I don't know how else to put it. Google is not like a small company, but they weren't willing to put the resources required to get Stadia off the ground, so it's really kind of darkly humorous to me that Amazon did the exact same thing. They weren't willing to put the resources into it to get their gaming services off the ground. Amazon has actually made a lot of video games, and you've probably heard of New Worlds, but they've made a handful of video games, and all of them have failed in one way, shape, form, or another. Some of them had immediate successes and then immediate crashes. So yeah, it's just not working, and I guess they're trying to say you know what, we placed a bet by trying to get into the gaming world, didn't work. We're gonna take a break right here. I got ads I need to go ahead and play, so I'm gonna play them for you right about now. We'll be right back. So you know what I like? I like energy drinks. I take them every time right before I work out. And what I don't like about energy drinks is when you do take them, you do have a caffeine crash right after them. And so I'm always shopping around for different energy drinks that will give me a better caffeine high, as it were. Maybe a more natural high. So we got today's sponsor, Aspire Drinks. If you want to go to aspiredrinks.com, what they give you is healthy energy that delivers balanced, crash-free 80 milligrams of natural green tea caffeine. They are sugar-free and they come in a variety of delicious flavors. They will keep you refreshed and focused all day long. Now, as a new sponsor of this show, they are giving an exclusive discount when you are at the checkout. Enter the promo code RHAZE, and it's like Ray Hayes. Yeah, RHAZE at aspire.com when you order some energy drinks. You can just buy a pack for yourself or just make a subscription if you've already had them before. Once again, these are gluten-free, keto-friendly, soy-free, vegan, and kosher natural energy drinks. The discount is going to give you, the listener, a 20% discount. That's a heck of a deal. Go ahead and put that into, once again, aspiredrinks.com. That's RHAZE. You're already going to probably go buy some energy drinks. Why not buy a bulk? Buy some in bulk. Tell them Ray Hazlip sent you. All right? Okay, so we're back. Let's go ahead and talk about Microsoft. We're going back to the old well. We're talking about Microsoft again. Because Microsoft just had their end of quarter call. And there was a lot of things that they talked about. Yeah, sure. Most of it's about AI. Because of course it was. Here's some things that the CEO of Microsoft was noting. By the way, in case you don't know, the CEO is Satya Nadella. Satya Nadella? I hope that got that pronounced correctly. Satya Nadella. So he said that the plans and outlook for we're going to specifically talk about the gaming section of Microsoft, the Xbox division, or the Microsoft Games division. I don't know what they call it anymore. I'm going to call it the Xbox division because that's what I've been knowing it as. They said the plans and the outlook for gaming going forward was looking very good. Apparently, never once in the entirety of the call did he say the words Xbox, which I bet if you're part of the Xbox division was concerning because you're not mentioning one of the larger hardware pieces that Microsoft actually sells. So, they said that Windows is going to be the main focus of their gaming division. Which again, if you're part of the Xbox division, you're like, can it not be? Can we start making our own consoles? Anyways, I don't know. Kind of a weird. They did also highlight that Steam is going to be one of the main storefronts that they're going to use for Xbox games going forward. They didn't say the word Xbox, they just said games. That's interesting. Some people would view Steam as a competitor. Microsoft doesn't have to view it as a competitor. They can use it as a also and. They launch a game on Steam and they launch it on the Xbox and Windows platform. It does beg the question of why the hell would I get Game Pass at that point if you're going to launch it on Steam? I guess so you can get it in multiple places, I suppose, but I don't know. They said that, or rather he said that multi-platform is going to be the strategy going forward. Also noted that they want to be a successful publisher. And an example that they used was Microsoft Office or Office 365 as a success of their publishing strategy, which is a very interesting way to look at that. I use Office 365 because many of my work and school locations kind of require it. Like, I guess I could use Google Docs, but Microsoft Word is just way more powerful and better integrated with other things than Google Docs. It just is. I would never look at gaming as like an also and for Microsoft Office. I think these are two completely different things. So Nadella, also said that they see video game consoles and PC as the exact same thing. And the next console, whatever that console is, they never said the word Xbox, I need to be clear. The next console that they would launch would be heavily PC based. One could let me pause right here. One could make the argument that the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X are basically just computers formatted as a console. One could make that argument, but as someone that has both a computer and one of those consoles, the PS5, I would much rather play a game on the PS5 than I would on my PC if given the option, because if I put a game into my PC, 80% of the time it's going to work without me fiddling with anything. I put a game into my console, 99% of the time it's going to work without fiddling with anything. Maybe I have to sit through a day one download or a patch update or something. Fine. I can always say don't do that patch update sometimes. But yeah, I don't view a PC and a console as the same thing. You could make the argument that the components on the inside are the same thing. The user experience is getting closer and closer to being the same thing, but it's just not the same thing. They say, or he said, that the real competition in gaming is not video games or gaming in general. It's short form videos like TikTok and Instagram Reels, etc., etc. And that, to me, gives the game away. What he's talking about is the attention economy. What's going to hold your attention more? Either short-form videos or playing a video game. What a very corporate and very ignorant way of looking at the art form of video games, that video games are just supposed to absorb time in your life, much like TikTok absorbs time in your life. These aren't stories that are being told to you. These aren't interactions that you have with either yourself or with your friends or with people across the world. No. These are interactions that are as consumable as a Instagram reel and should be treated as such. That's the real competition. Of course, I'm really close to this topic. Again, having a degree and spending pretty much of the majority of my career in the gaming space. But to have that entire concept reduced down to this is nothing but the attention economy is not only insulting, it means that they never understood what sort of business that they were in. And that's what I said. That's what I'm meaning by you just gave the game away. You don't know and you don't care to know. And finally, they said the margins are good, and they to keep the margins good, they need to keep the funding high. You're a company valued at $3 trillion. What are you talking about? I'm going to get into video game margins here in a little bit, but first, if you don't mind, I got another ad I need to go ahead and play here. So, I'll be back in just a little bit. Do you like drinking coffee? Of course you do. You're listening to this podcast. That's pretty much most people listening to this love drinking coffee. What you want to drink, though, is locally sourced and sustainable coffee. How about some coffee where every time you make a purchase of it, 5% of all of its sales go back to charities to go ahead preserve the great outdoors? How about a coffee that only works with local farmers? Coffee that gives you a great taste. So thanks to today's sponsor, that is going to be Afuera Coffee. You can go ahead, go to afueracoffee.com, and you can order some specially sourced, single-sourced actually, sourced from the Rainforest Alliance Farms in Central and South America, coffee beans, ground or whole beans, and get that delivered straight to your house. You want to use my promo code RHAZE, that's RHAZE, at afueracoffee.com. Order yourself some coffee, and they're going to give you 15% off just for using that promo code. Go ahead, get yourself some coffee, and enjoy it knowing that you're giving a little bit back to the environment. All right, I'm back. So, speaking of margins that need funding, big news. Halo has been announced that it's coming to the PlayStation 5. It's called Halo as opposed to CE, Combat Evolved. It's going to be Halo Campaign Evolved. It's going to be the campaign of Halo 1 that came out all the way in, 2001, 2002 on the PlayStation 5. There's been a lot of talk about this. I have said a lot of things about this. I have said, if you're listening to the unscripted gaming version of this podcast family, I have said on that podcast, once Halo comes to the PlayStation 5 or Nintendo, whatever console that they have, we'll say the Switch 2, it's over. It's done. There will be no more Xbox in the future as we know it. That is the equivalent of Mario coming to a Sega Dreamcast at the, I guess, the death nail of the GameCube and the Sega Dreamcast. Imagine if Nintendo announced we're putting Mario in the Sega Dreamcast. By the way, we're losing our client share so much to the Sega Dreamcast. You would just say, oh, so there's going to be no more Nintendo consoles going forward, right? What it is the open admission of defeat, and that you do not want to be in the console space. I know there's a lot of people I respect and trust too, that say that the console space is dying, and I want to go ahead and point to you at the number of PlayStation 5s and the number of Switch 2 sales that are out there. Nintendo, as of November 4th, 2025, announced today that the Switch 2 has exceeded all of their highest expectations for sales, to the point that they are redoing their sales forecast into 2026 to account for that. It met and exceeded their sales growth by, let me get the exact number, I think it was 270%. Yeah, let me get the exact number. Their profits soared 270%. Their earnings rose 90% year over year. So yeah, it exceeded all of their expectations for units sold in just 5 months. The Switch 2 came out in June, and they're redoing all of their forecasts. The console business is fine if you're just interested in making video games that people want to buy. And I think what Microsoft, what Amazon, and yes, to an extent Google never truly got is that the video game hardware business is a loss leader type of business. What does loss leader mean for those of you that don't know? It means you sell the console and make damn near no money off of it. Like, you sell it, and a lot of consoles are sold at a loss. Nintendo has found a way to not sell them at a loss. They use the concept of sell withered tech, or tech that's refined to the point where it's almost obsolete. A Switch 2 is about as powerful as a PlayStation 4. This is not up for debate. Most people can agree with that. It's slightly more powerful than the PlayStation 4, but it's like ever so slightly. A PlayStation 4 came out in 2013, 2014, a little over 11 years ago. But that tech is good. It's considered withered tech, but if you make good video games on that tech, it still looks good. I still think PlayStation 4 games look good, especially if you go ahead and keep that art style in mind. Do some PlayStation 5 games look even better? Sure. Not that much better, but sure. Yeah, some games do things in the PlayStation 5 that look really, really good. It's all about frame rates. At a certain point, can you get this really good looking game running at 60 frames per second? Yes or no? So to say that Microsoft is leaving the console business because they believe that they can make more money just selling the software versus selling the hardware, it means you never actually got the hint that you have to sell the hardware at a loss. All of gaming is kind of a loss leader because you have to go ahead and make the money back selling good games. And the way to make good games is you talk to developers willing to make those really good games. That's going to bring us back to the conversation of Halo. I bought, or rather at the time, my stepdad bought a PlayStation 2. I played the PlayStation 2 at my friend's house as well, Michael. I won't say his last name. I don't know if he's comfortable with that. He bought a PlayStation 2, and at one point we played Ace Combat 4 on his PlayStation 2, and we played Zone of Enders, and we played that Fireworks games like Fantasia. I forget what the name of it's called. Fireworks game starts with an F. It's off the top of my head. I can't think of it right now. We played a lot of different games, especially Unreal Tournament. The PlayStation 2 version of Unreal Tournament, which was fine. The PC version is obviously better, but I'm not gonna say I didn't have a blast with the PlayStation 2 version. I thought the PlayStation 2 was incredible for the amount of games that it delivered. Now, the Xbox, I thought, like, why do I want Microsoft's stupid console? Then I played Halo. It's like, oh, well, there it is. Halo was this phenomenal game back in 2003. I think that's when it came out, 2003, 2002. And the campaign of it and the multiplayer of it, I played the campaign of Halo 1 so many times. I played the multiplayer of Halo 1, you know, hosting LAN parties where you're stringing 4 Xboxes with 4 TVs and you're putting 16 players and it's 8-on-8 team deathmatches. That seems like nothing nowadays, and it is nothing to do nowadays. But back then, when you had to drive to people's house for these large Halo parties, that was the good stuff right there. And I, in 2003, right after basic training, bought an Xbox. It was the first thing I bought when I got right out of Army basic training, because I wanted to get home and play that campaign for myself. And I wanted to go ahead and drag it to other people's houses to play the multiplayer and have a good time. At the time, Halo, the software of Halo, Combat Evolved, that was Xbox. You had an Xbox, you had Halo. Much like if you had an NES, you had Super Mario Brothers. If you had a Super Nintendo, you had Super Mario World. If you had a Wii, you had Wii Sports. This was just the state of play. That's how strong that brand name was. The Xbox 360, that was your Halo and your Call of Duty machine. That's what that thing was. Everyone assumed that if you had an Xbox 360, you had a copy of a Call of Duty game and a copy of one of the Halo games somewhere, because the Xbox 360 was backwards compatible. So of course you could just pop a disc in there and you're off to the races. You're playing Halo 1. It was great. Now, for 11 years, Microsoft assumed market dominance because their console was easier to make games for than the PlayStation 3. It was a no-brainer for a lot of people. It really was. Because it was a Windows-based operating system, and if you were an indie developer, the XNA infrastructure. We won't get into too much deep language about that, too much nerd language. And the PlayStation 3 infrastructure, their cell-based architecture, was really difficult to program video games for, and a lot of developers just didn't want to do it. Not a lot of except Japanese developers, they absolutely threw themselves into the fire and said, "No, we're just going to make something for the PlayStation 3." And even then, there were a lot of Japanese developers that said, "But the Xbox 360 sells more. There's a lot more money there. Maybe we can go ahead and explore that." And a lot of people did. And that was the state of play for 11 years. And then Microsoft lost their mind. They announced the Xbox One. I remember watching that. I watched that presentation. And all they did was talk about TV. Having the Xbox One be the big TV thing in your home. And then they talked about locking down software so you couldn't trade in used games. It had to lock into your console, and if you wanted to trade in a used game, you had to not be able to do it, or you had to do a sign-in, sign-out service. I don't know. And then they wanted to make it so that the consoles were online at all times, and you had to be online for any video game to even work. And if you were online, even though you paid for the game wouldn't work at all, even if it was a single-player game with the Xbox One. Whew. I know this gets talked about a lot, but words can't describe how in 1 hour the Xbox division burned every last bit of the goodwill that they earned in just a 1 hour presentation. It was bad. I was actually watching in real time the stock market for the Microsoft Corporation, like it fell $13 per share right after that presentation was over. It was so phenomenal and interesting to watch. By the way, casual reminder that the corporation right now is valued at $3 trillion, and they've never been able to get their footing back, ever. They launched the Xbox One for a much more expensive price than the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 launched at $399, $400. Xbox One launched with a Kinect. You had to have the Kinect with it, and the Kinect was always on, and you could never turn it off. As a matter of fact, the console would not turn on properly unless the Kinect was plugged in, and the Kinect very creepily followed you, the little device, that camera system followed you wherever you were in the room, and that looked very not great. That launched at $500. And eventually they released a software update that said, by the way, you can turn off you can unplug your Kinect. It's not required to be with the console anymore. And then they sold bundles without the Kinect, and they sold it at parity price with the PlayStation 4. Yeah, it was done. It was over. There were way more PlayStation 4 sold compared to the Xbox One. And then they launched the Xbox Series X, but the damage was done. Now people were in the PlayStation environment, and they had no reason to go back, especially when it was announced the PlayStation 5 was backwards compatible. Don't get me wrong, the Xbox Series X is backwards compatible. As a matter of fact, there are some updates that makes it so you could play original OG Xbox games on the Xbox Series X, and I think that's really interesting and cool. You can't do that on the PlayStation 5. You can play every single PlayStation 4 just about game on a PlayStation 5, and that's not nothing. There's a lot of PS4s out there, PS4 games. What's my big takeaway? What is this all coming to? Here's my big takeaway. Very, very large corporations, multi-billion-dollar, and in some cases, multi-trillion-dollar corporations have been for decades trying to buy their way into the video gaming space. And rarely does it work, because a lot of those corporations do not understand that video games are not just product, they are an art form. And you can't just say this art form is just something that people will just consume. People play video games for a lot of different reasons. They play it for artistic reasons, story-based reasons. They play it to relax with their friends, with their family. No one anymore, and I'm sure there are some people, but no one just anymore like sits with a video game and say, hey, I got 10 minutes, I'm going to play a video game. They do it for 10 minutes, they put it down, they're like, haha, that was game, and then they walk away. Treating games as something that people just like consume. There are some people that just consume video games. They're like the sports games players. But even they're trying to get something out of it. They're trying to emulate the experience that maybe they can't have of playing that particular sport. And that's why very, very large corporations that want to enter the gaming space are failing. I said to Josh years ago on a podcast, on one of our unscripted gaming episodes, I forget which one, I said that if Google cannot figure out how to get video game streaming as a service working, no one is going to get that working. Nobody. No one will be successful at it. Google is the only company with the massive amount of bandwidth, infrastructure, and reason to get it working. They can't do it, no one's going to do it, and everybody else needs to just give up the ghost and try something different. Stadia failed completely. Amazon tried it with Luna, and it failed so bad, very few people knew it existed. Game Pass, as it stands right now, is falling on its face so hard that you can't find... You can't go to the YouTube gaming space and not find at least one content creator, myself included, that hasn't made a video about how terrible Microsoft Game Pass has become in just the last year because they're chasing the dollars rather than the service. It gives me some hope. I'm not going to lie. It gives me a bit of hope. You're probably asking, what are you talking about? What hope are you getting from this? This all sounds not great. The hope I get is that if we have hit a stage where people are recognizing, especially companies are recognizing we can't buy our way into this and we can't buy our way out of it. We have to actually try. That's good for gaming. It is. I don't think it's a good thing that if Microsoft really just falls in their head, I don't think it's a good thing. Falls in their face, my fault. I don't think it's a good thing if they leave the gaming space and for a premium console experience, it's PlayStation or nothing. I don't think that's great. There should be some competition for the PlayStation 5, but I'm going to be honest with you, and I said this to someone else last week. Microsoft has been competition for the PlayStation brand since 2014. It's been an also-ran. Like, if you bought just an Xbox One and you thought this is better than a PS4, one, you were fooling yourself. Two, you probably didn't believe that when the PlayStation 5 came around. You probably just bought that. If you bought an Xbox Series X, you bought that knowing that you're going to take a big fat L due to certain games, because not a single game on the Xbox Series X has come out that didn't also come out on a PC. Not anymore, and not anymore in the future. If you have a PlayStation 5, yeah, you still have some games, not many, some games that are exclusive to the PlayStation 5. But if you want a premium console experience, you have no reason to buy an Xbox Series X. If you want to go ahead and, right now, if you're in the job market, going back to Amazon, if you're in the job market and you want to work at a studio, you have no reason to ever apply to Amazon Game Studios. They're about to just shut down. They're about to close out their entire gaming division. It's done. It's over. Maybe they'll keep Twitch, because Twitch has become something else. It is now just a voice chatting platform that also seems to host some video game streamers. Gives me a lot of hope. I'm sick and tired of the obnoxious amount of money in this space that goes nowhere, and then they hire and fire just thousands upon thousands of people. Get out of here. If you're not going to take this serious, don't come into this space. Don't come. I've been in here. I've been in this space for well north of a decade and a half. I feel like I'm allowed to say this. Don't come into my space. It's part of my space. It's part of the space of a lot of me and some other colleagues. We don't need you here. We take this very, very seriously. You can't throw money at this problem. The problem is, and by the way, for all the Amazon employees that were laid off, my heart is out to you. Absolutely. Next place you work at, consider unionizing. Just consider it. All right. That's about it for me. If you want to go ahead and watch some more episodes of Game Analysis and Producer Perspectives, you know where to find me. You can find me on Apple Podcasts. You can find me on the RSS feed. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on any place where you do get podcasts. If you want to go ahead and watch this video, it is uploaded straight to YouTube. If you want to follow me on social media, look for the Unscripted Gaming Blue Sky social media tab. We also have a Facebook that's very loosely maintained. I would advise going to the Blue Sky tab instead, or you can just follow me on Blue Sky. Me personally, look for Pigeon of War on Blue Sky. Put some underscores underneath there, and you can follow me. Thank you very much for listening. We hope to see you again. And you have yourself a good day. All right.